Greetings, users of hardware virtualization, pass-through, IOMMU, VFIO people. How's it going? Get a new platform, Ryzen's out. We're not even, at the time of this video, we don't even have our Ryzen benchmarks out because everything's been all over the place. The short version is Linux performance on Ryzen is really good, and we've seen really good hardware support from vendors. Basically with kernel 4.1, pretty much all the Ryzen hardware is supported. The only Achilles heel is the IOMMU groups. The IOMMU groups are terrible, just absolutely terrible out of the box. This is the IOMMU grouping on both the ASRock 370 Taichi and the Gigabyte Aorus AX370. The IOMMU grouping between the two of them is basically the same. I've populated this motherboard with an NVMe, 2 graphics cards, and that's about it. And it's, you know, as you can see, Group 0 is huge. It's got everything basically that's connected to the Promontory X370 chipset. Let me start by explaining a block diagram of Ryzen. What can you expect? All right, so this is the block diagram for Ryzen when used with the X370 chipset. Ryzen, the CPU, provides 16 PCI Express lanes for graphics cards that can be split into by 8 by 8. It also provides 2 groups of PCI Express by 4 lanes, one of which is for NVMe and SATA Express, and the other one is for the X370 chipset. Everything that goes through the X370 chipset goes through that PCI Express 3.0 by 4 interface. The X370 provides 8 PCI Express 2.0 lanes and a number of other peripherals. And so you're in a situation where everything's basically an IOMMU Group 0. So wait, what about the PCI Express? Well, super disappointed to learn that the graphics card slots, even if you're running in a by 8 by 8 configuration, those are both in IOMMU Group 2 by default. Well wait, we can do the ACS patches. What about the ACS patches? Yes, the ACS patch is a possibility. It was originally written for kernel 4.8. I had some difficulties and some instability after applying it on kernel 4.11 RC1. So I'm going to provide the patch that I used that is currently the most working. There's an article to go with this at the Level 1 Tech's website. So I've created a Linux kernel patch based on the kernel 4.8. It's just got some minor changes. Hunk 3 did not apply cleanly, and that's because of changes in the kernel since 4.8, I guess. But it didn't really look like a big deal. Honestly, it's a really, really minor change. The bad news is that because in hardware, the IOMMU groups are still grouped together, if you run in an ideal configuration where you've got a graphics card in the 2 by 8 slots provided by the CPU, and they're similar cards, weird things happen. So I was first trying the R9 Fury. I've got this nice Strix R9 Fury that I got on sale from Micro Center, and it's a really, really good card. It does have the bus reset bug where if your virtual machine shuts down uncleanly without sort of soft shutting down the graphics card, it will not reinitialize. But if you go to Device Manager and eject the graphics card before you shut down, that does actually work correctly. So who knew? The 480 on my other Linux machine does not have the reset bug. I can reset it. But when I tried to mix the 480 and the Strix Fury, it basically caused the whole machine to hard lock and go to a black screen. Couldn't SSH, couldn't do anything. I tried various permutations and combinations. I tried this with a Gigabyte RX 460, which is what is in the machine behind me that's running the Heaven benchmark. And that is passed through to a Windows virtual machine. It's Fedora 25 with Windows 10 in the virtual machine. So Windows 10 has the RX 480. But I wasn't able to really mix different genres of AMD cards on that, I think because of the IOMMU grouping. And that was not something that I was expecting, so my troubleshooting at first was kind of rough. When I added a GTX 960 to the equation, I'm able to use the GTX 960 for the Linux host and the RX 460 for the Windows host. I'm going to do some more experimenting to try to figure out what's going on, if it was a fluke or a crash or a hardware bug or what exactly the problem was. But I wanted to provide this ACS patch, so if you have Ryzen or you're thinking about getting Ryzen and you're willing to tolerate, you know, the ACS patch, then you can use it. I mean, even with the ACS patch, there should be better isolation between devices than there are. I've tried with both downstream and multi-device. Here's the output of downstream, and here is the output of downstream, multi-device. And a quick mention, the B350 chipset, I do have an MSI Tomahawk B350 motherboard in that I'm testing. However, the B350 chipset does not support split PCI Express lanes that I know of. I haven't seen any B350 motherboards that provide more than one PCI Express slot using PCI Express lanes provided by the CPU. So you would have to run it on the Promontory chipset, either the X370 in the case of X370 or the B350 chipset. Now I know what you're thinking. It's like, well, I would be okay running a graphics card off of the X370 or B350 chipset, those PCI Express 2.0 lanes. It's trickier than that because of the whole card initialization rodeo. It's tricky to find a UEFI that supports initializing the graphics card that's connected to the X370 or that's connected to the Southbridge first, because ideally for your virtual machine you want an uninitialized graphics card when you boot it. There are workarounds, but this is an awful lot of workarounds that I'm describing here. This is not going to be a great user experience, especially for people that we might be sort of bringing over to the Linux side, because you want them to have a good user experience and you want things to be relatively easy for them, I think. But that's entering into religious territory, and that's not really what this video is about. This video is about the state of IOMMU on Ryzen. So, long story short, the ACS patch that I'm using does work with kernel 4.11 RC1 and Fedora 25. It's not perfectly stable because in the course of this video, this actually locked up. And so got the debug symbol set. Gonna have to go see what the heck happened. Gonna see if I can SSH into this thing or if it's just, if it's done. Oh, I guess the Linux machine's still running. It's just Windows that messed up. All right, well, there you go. More testing is in order, but that's the current state of things. If you download the patch and try it, or if you're doing something on another operating system, if you've got it set up with Arch, let us know in the forums at Level 1 Techs. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.